Hey everybody, Matt the Garden Guy here. Welcome May. It's the time to plant our stuff. Let's go get into it. Let's go ahead and start getting netting over our berries so those birds don't come in here and start destroying and eating the berries that are growing. Start hardening off your peppers and your tomatoes, tomatillos. Let's start getting these hardening off before we put them in the ground. Let's make sure we get our mulch applied on there so we don't have any bare soil or anything. Mulch is really good around berries as well. Just make sure we start getting these nasty weeds out before they get really out of control. It's also a good time to start figuring out what you want to do with your irrigation system. I'm using drip irrigation, so I have all my hoses coming out into where they need to go. So it might be a good time to start planning that out and getting it all laid out. So what you can also do as well, what I personally do is I start my beans and my corn inside. So just get a tray, get some cells, fill them up with dirt, get your beans in there or your corn, get them underneath your growing lights. You're also going to want to start your melons, your squashes, zucchinis, watermelons, any of that stuff as well. Put them underneath that growing light. After a couple weeks of the beans and the corn and all those melons and stuff underneath the growing light, they should start popping up. And as soon as they start popping up, go put them outside so they can start hardening off as well. Remember, you need to make sure you harden those off. So like I said, if you're in zone 5 through 7, you can start your beans and your cabbages and your corn and cucumbers, melons, and squash. I start those inside to get them a good head start. Also, zone 5 and 7, about mid-May, or about when your soil is an average of 60 degrees, or after the last frost date, we can go ahead and start planting our tomatoes, our peppers. Hopefully our melons and our cucumbers and squash and like that have already been established. So we can get those outside. Make sure you harden those off. You can start getting your flowers out there as well. If you've not planted your cold crop plants, let's get those done now. We want to make sure we can use that fish fertilizer on our berries. Also use like an acidic mix for your berries. I'll post a comment on what to get. You also want to do your fish fertilizer on your cold crops that you might have planted a couple weeks ago. Also, let's hit those potatoes with some of that fish fertilizer. Lastly, if you have fruit trees, you're going to want to hit your fruit trees with some compost. Let's go ahead and start harvesting our asparagus. Make sure that your asparagus is mature at least 3 years before you can start harvesting it. Some of them you can start harvesting about 2 years, but typically you want to wait about 3 years before you start harvesting it. So last thing that we want to do is we want to start thinning out our plants that we have planted. So our carrots, our spinach, our lettuce, anything that are like those roots, any parsnips, we want to make sure they're not too close together. If you planted them a couple weeks ago, they should start coming out of the ground now and just start thinning them to how the package says they should be. Hey, so I hope you enjoyed this monthly checklist that I'm doing. Hey, if you do, hey, let's go ahead and do all that good stuff. Follow me. If you're not, give it a thumbs up, give it a share, leave me a comment. Until next time, keep growing, and I'll talk to you throughout the month. Hey, like I said, I'll talk to you throughout the month. Please remember to keep coming back and checking my page. I post videos all the time on things that I'm doing, different techniques, pest controls. I just posted one last night using the nematodes for those grub worms, and a lot of other different things, products that I've used that work really well, how-tos, and just things that I'm doing that work great for me.